important too. You know, you always want to be comfortable at the school you want to attend. You always want to, you know, because again, you're going to be here for 4 years. You have to know basically the feel of that school. You've never been there. You don't know how it is. And especially now, it's very hard to take those tours and be at the school. So this is going to help you kind of grasp an idea of what that school consists of. And yeah, so it allows you to pick how many, the percentage of minorities, if that's something that you're looking into for a school. Again, they have all of these options that you can pick from. And if religion is an important thing for you, there's many schools that are geared or very heavily influenced by religion. That's important to you. Again, co-ed, women's or men's colleges, based on preference. If gender is an important thing to you, you can select the majority, or if any of this doesn't matter to you, if you don't really have your concern, you don't have to fill this out. Especially, if you're an international student, that's a good option, you know, if you're not comfortable, or if you want to find a university where you're more comfortable being with other kids, being with some people around you too, because you're going to be, especially if you're in completely different states, it's something to consider. And again, here goes out-of-state students. You want to be with people who you're comfortable with. Again, you do not have to, but it's just an option. That's a good thing. It gives you, like, if that's on your mind and if you really want to consider that, it's always a good thing. Next, institution characteristics. Okay, this is also, I'm also gonna have a video on this. You know, I keep on saying I'm gonna make a video for everything, but this is basically, because there's a lot of different types of universities, colleges. So if you want to go to a community college, if that's what you're trying to look for, technical, which I'm going to explain in a video what a technical and all those community college options, what those are. But if that's something you have in mind, even if that's not what you want to do, if you're not thinking like, oh, community college, like why would I want to do that? Just in case, because usually community college can be a lifesaver for a lot of people. It offers you good education at probably half the price of a four-year institution. Or if you're going to be a transfer student, if you're trying to go to another school, you can get your gen ed credits through community college and then go to your desired school. There's just a lot of options. So it doesn't hurt basically to check the community college box. It doesn't hurt. Let me just do it now, because really it gets a lot of bad rep, but it's community college is a good option, just in general. And here we have public and private universities. Private universities are usually, you know, the Ivy Leagues, or if there is like, or NYU, UM, you know, it depends on obviously university. They're usually more expensive, a lot of factors to take in, but don't worry about costs. Though don't always worry about that, because you can get scholarships. There's never too little. You can always get scholarships, and that's where you can go to Mariana to help you with that. So shout out. So student success is, I guess, it's another factor to consider. High job placement rate. A lot of people look into that because, you know, you want to go to a college where if you see people are graduating, if you see people are going to, or succeeding, you know, if you want to be, you're like, hey, I want to be one of those people too. It's always good to consider that. And class size is actually really important too. There's a lot of factors or a lot of things they don't tell you. You might think, that like, oh, they say like 25,000 students or 30,000, 40,000 currently attend. Well, you don't know how much that is. You don't know if that's like, you know, that's what you want, because it can become very crowded at those big state universities, at those Florida universities. Typically, just typically, not all, but private schools are smaller in size from what I've seen, and those public schools are larger. For example, UF has like student population of about 55,000, if I'm correct, and that's a lot of people. So if you don't want to be in such a large, you know, also student to teacher ratio is important, because you're going to be in the class, you have to consider this, you're going to be in the class with about like, if you're going to go to one of those big universities where you see student to teacher ratios like 30-1 or larger, you have to see that you're going to be in the class. Sometimes you're going to be in the class full of students, and you're not going to get noticed that much as in a university where the student to teacher ratio is like 12-1, you know? So if that's important to you and you want to consider that when considering your studies, class size really plays into that. So here you can select less than how many ever students. And student body size, again, it tells you how much, because there's some colleges that you can go to that are going to be about 2,000, and some are over 20,000. So it's always something you have to consider. And housing is extremely important too. Not all colleges require on-campus housing, or not all of them offer it, I think, but there is some colleges that require it. So you have to know that when you're looking at your colleges. So it's very important. So for cost, cost, obviously, it is one of the biggest factors that you have to look into when looking at the college you want to go to. And it's, again, don't be scared by the cost of the college. You can go to Harvard or wherever you want to go to, your dream school. You can always go there. Just remember that the same drive you have to go into that college, you can put in the same effort to get in scholarships, applying for all these scholarships. And if people see that you're, the school itself will give you financial aid. If they see how driven you are, and if you keep on submitting to all these scholarship contests, again, you can go to Mariana's program for more scholarship opportunities. You can definitely, it's not impossible, basically. Don't lose your hopes just because the college is very expensive and your family might not be able to afford it. It's a problem for a lot of people, and it kind of like stops them from wanting to go to that college. And I just want to let you know that just because it's an expensive, because school is going to be expensive, you know, don't let that kill your dreams. Always consider it that yes, some colleges can be very expensive, but there's always options, you know. Again, with community college, that's an option. It's not impossible. So here, when looking at your maximum tuition fees, maximum total costs, and select both. And especially, I should probably put this total cost, it's smarter, but tuition fees and room and board, especially, a lot of people don't consider it, but sometimes your room and board can be more expensive than your tuition. So that's why I said the housing is really important too. So you always want to consider that. You probably should put total cost first. So here you can select a specific amount per year. It can range up to 60,000 or up to 5,000. And obviously, if you're going out of state, it's going to be more expensive. Typically, it's going to be more expensive. So that's kind of like one of the differences. If you're in state or if you have residence in another state, it's going to be cheaper because you live in that state. Another thing to consider, sometimes states will give you scholarships to go to these schools. For example, Bright Futures for Florida. It basically, if you get a certain score on your SAT or a certain score on your ACT, and you generate enough volunteer hours for the specific, depending on which scholarship, there's one 75% paid for your tuition and one that's 100%. They give you money to go to school. So you always want to consider all that. I know I'm getting a little off topic, but when looking at costs and looking in state or out of state, you know, it's always something to consider. And of course, if your family is going to be the one paying for your college, or if that's what you really need to consider, you can select family income based on however much. Yeah, and there's a little box here for meeting 100% of the need. So what I was saying, basically, when a student can show the need for it, some colleges will help cover it. Grants, work study, scholarships. So again, it's not impossible. There's always a way you can get there. Even if it's a school like Harvard, Ivy League, it's not impossible again. You can do it. So one of the last categories is athletics. There's a lot of people that, again, relating to costs, you can get certain scholarships or you can get your tuition fully paid by being in a sport or getting a full ride. That's something a lot of people should consider, especially if you're very dedicated, you've been doing sport for years, and you're at the ranking where you can actually participate in these sports, and you can, let me see. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, if you're athletically inclined, and if you have been working on this for years, and you think it's possibility that you're going to be able to go to college for sports, it doesn't hurt to even put it here, the sport. Oh, it's going to time out. Oops. So yeah, we're almost done. It's very important to consider, if you're doing a sport right now, it's a lot of athletes at our school, and a lot of people in our school who actually go to college for these things. Almost done. And lastly, your resources that you can check off when doing Supermatch. Just in general. Oh, this is actually, yeah, this is important for if you have any disability that you need, or anything, language barriers, counseling, tutoring, that you need for the school to have. This is important. So you can obviously, whatever applies to you, you can check off, because people don't consider this when going to college. Everyone's just focused on, I need to get that SAT score, I need to get straight A's. That's important, yeah, but you have to know if that school, like what if the school that you really have had your heart on for years, like doesn't have any of your other needs that you need to make yourself successful. So I hope you guys have learned from my knowledge on this stuff. So I completed it earlier, and here's a very useful thing to have when you're looking at everything we just discussed. You can have your must-haves and your nice-to-haves. You always want to separate those two. So myself, I have location, major, campus surrounding, acceptance rate, anything of the sort. You can put it into this little box and then change it to. Well, why is it not even change? Oh, so you press the little button. No, the wrong one. Oops. So yeah. So my results, when I did this before, my results came out as, usually I was just looking at Florida schools. And as a surprise to me, University of Florida, which is a school that I intend on going to, was only 77% compared to the rest, where I was higher at like University of North Florida, University of South Florida, where I matched more. I was very surprised. These aren't my current SAT scores. Maybe, I don't know if that impacted anything because I haven't taken the SAT, which I probably should. But if you have taken the SAT, it's going to be very useful because usually SATs and grades, when they're looking at your academics, that's what's really important. So you always want to make sure that, you know, it impacts you. It's going to impact you. No. And it gives you other options. So like if that's not your number one fit, it gives you a ton of other options you can choose from. You can pin your favorites and it's going to tell you why, which is great. So for example, Florida Southern College, I've never heard of it. In Lakeland, Florida, it's a match with these things because first it's in Florida, second it's a small city, it has my majors, acceptance rate is 50%, which is pretty good, and accept AP credits, and academic match. So for me, it would be probably a safety school. And it's gonna vary based on person. Again, I should probably send out my actual scores. Like you want your scores to be accurate. I just put in like something, like a baseline basically. But don't feel discouraged again if this school is like, if you're lower or, oh, sorry, it's gone. If you're lower than the average, or if you shouldn't be discouraged if you're higher, but if you're lower than average, don't be discouraged because academics is not the only thing you look at. And when you're applying to colleges, you will see that there's other things to look at. You're gonna learn about like SAT and like ACT, GPA, like things at our school that you have to do. You can learn that through Adrian's program. He's gonna really focus on those aspects of things to get you into the school. So that's gonna be really helpful. So yeah, this is just to help you kind of narrow down what you kind of, if you're like, even if you do have an idea, but if you're completely lost, you don't know where you want to go or like what colleges you can even think of right now, this is always a good place to start. Because, and I'm gonna review each of these little subcategories in other videos, my presentations. So look out for those because it's gonna be a lot of helpful information. And lastly, talking about the volunteer hours. So I want you guys, whoever signs up for the email distribution list, I would like you guys to complete the Supermatch college search. It's gonna be your first like assignment for volunteer hours. From what I have seen, I think So I'm gonna have basically like a roster of who completed the assignments, and it doesn't take a long time, I promise. It's just kind of narrows it down for you. You can always save your search. So if I want to save it throughout, you can always put like put trial 1. So this is my first trial. If you want to put that, you can name it whatever. So I'm gonna save the search. So it has it saved. So that's great. So if you did this thing already, and then maybe like a couple months later, when you learn more about these through my videos or through anything else, you can go back to it, see how they differ, or see the things that you already put. Then I can just completely start over, and it's gonna be like a fresh palette, a clean slate. And yeah, that's gonna be, it's a really useful feature to narrow down your options, and I think it's great. And it gives basically everything, any questions you have, they're probably going to be answered by the little help buttons here. It's going to tell you, it's very, like, you can't really go wrong with it. And if you have any like specific questions about like the academics or anything like that, you can always email me. I'm going to put like the email down below. And yeah, don't forget to sign up for the email distribution list, because it's going to be the way that you get your volunteer hours. I will be notifying you guys how many volunteer hours you can get. So yeah, I'm gonna put the links for Mariana's. I'm putting information for Mariana Solis's scholarship program, where you can also get volunteer hours. I'm going to put the link for the Brace Cadets Instagram, managed by Adrian. And I'm going to put the information on how you can, basically on this program, and how I'm going to follow up with it. So thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to like the video.